Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rich. We have a special guest on tonight, a part of the Green 13 out in New Jersey. Very excited to talk to all of you. Robin Brownfield, Green Party candidate for New Jersey District 1. See, I wanted to say 10. I could feel it. But it's District 1. Hello, Robin. How are you?
Okay, a little bit overheated from the near 100-degree weather we've been having. So.
Oh man, yeah, it's supposed to be record-breaking heat like across the country.
It
I'm sure there's no climate change though. But so yeah, good lord, like it's breaking all sorts of records in the weather this year. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm sure everything's fine. So anyway, okay, well, welcome to the show. And I like to any but Green Party member, candidate or otherwise, I always like to ask them how they became a member of the Green Party, because as I said before about this very thing, it's usually when you join a third party, it's a very purposeful, willful sort of undertaking, if you will. Usually people are Democrat or Republican because they grew up that way. Usually, not always. Some will switch sides and that kind of thing, or some people are just really into it, so they think about it. But I don't know how, like, unless your family happened to catch on a third party pretty early and you were the product of a set of parents that were third party, which is extremely unlikely. In fact, I don't even know if that's ever happened yet. Well, maybe the next generation.
In some way, I kind of persuaded my mother to vote third party a few times.
Oh, that's fabulous. How did you yourself get involved in the Green Party? You have a very impressive resume, by the way. I looked you over on your campaign page, and like, I know you didn't finish your PhD, and for good reasons. You had children, but you got that far, and that's impressive. Most people don't even get past the bachelor's degree.
Yeah. I the PhD that was in sociology.
Which is cool.
I gave birth to twins, and they were my fourth and fifth child, so it was like too much for me to.
Oh, absolutely. No, I understand that.
Dissertations. So
yeah. I went to college and through a master's degree without children, and it was hard enough. That didn't work, so no, I get it.
I went through all of college and my master's degree with children. So I was used to that, but not with 5.
You got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, especially when they start coming in 2s. That was really difficult.
Yeah, that was probably a sign from the universe, I think.
Yes, right. And anyway. It's just as well because I was an adjunct professor for almost 30 years, and cool. I saw many of my colleagues who had PhDs never get beyond where I got as an adjunct. So,
PhDs are good if you want to do research and write and stuff like that, which is great and everything else. But as far as like employability,
right,
or like professional aspirations, no, that doesn't.
No. So it wasn't worth it to me, even though I had a full ride when I was doing it.
That had to be make it even harder.
Yeah, so that was a little painful to give up, but at the same time, I'd rather have. I'm glad I spent the time with my twins and my other children rather than doing a dissertation.
No regrets.
But I mean, in terms of actually joining the Green Party, it's been an on and off kind of thing over the years. I first voted for Ralph Nader in 2000.
Yeah.
Which is probably the first time really the Green Party was on my radar at all. I didn't really think much about it, except maybe around election time when I was, disgusted with all the options every election cycle, until 2016, and I was a Bernie Sanders supporter and helped with the campaign as much as I could with 2 broken feet at that time. Yeah, it was fun. But it was, we all witnessed how the will of voters was being usurped by the Democratic Party, which was supposed to be the good guys.
Right. They're literally the pro-democracy people, and they just totally. You're talking about how they like just kind of elbowed Bernie Sanders out of the spotlight. Yeah,
right. And yet everybody I mean, everybody I knew was for Bernie, and a couple of people were for Hillary, but most people were for Bernie that I would come across. And when he was essentially robbed of the nomination, that's when a number of us started thinking, well, what's the alternative? And that's when the Green Party showed up, in our lives. And a lot, I don't know about the other people I was working with. I had a number of people come from across the country and stay at my house to basically demonstrate outside of the Democratic National Convention, since we're right across the river from Philadelphia. Oh. And so I had people from all over the country staying in my house to go picket the convention, basically. And we all kind of said, we're done with the Democratic Party, or at least most of us did. And some of us started looking for the Green Party as an alternative. And so after that election, that's when I started showing up to meetings in my area. And I got involved for a while, and then got uninvolved for a while. You go in and out of these things depending on what's going on in your life. And 2020 came around again. We tried again for Bernie, even though we were a little bit more reticent about it the second time around. And when it was really glaringly obvious that that was never going to be an option, right. And also his foreign policy sucks. But
okay,
that was one thing. Even a lot of his supporters would be yelling at him at the TV, while we're watching him speak about his stances on certain foreign policy issues. But that's when I decided, that's enough. I'm done with the Democrats. I am not going to be involved. There were a couple of local people that I stayed a Democrat for. In our state, we have to, in order to vote in the primaries, we have to be registered either as a Democrat or a Republican. So I stayed in for somebody who was running in a primary against Donald Norcross, who was our congressman in Congressional District 1, because he's an incredibly corrupt, or I'm not going to say he's corrupt, he is, but but he's from an incredibly corrupt family. And if anyone's read the news, I don't know if it gets as far into Illinois, or other parts of the country, but his brother, George Norcross, is known to be a kingpin power broker in the Democratic Party, and he pretty much has his grips on any politician in the Democratic or Republican Party that gets into office. And he was just not convicted, but indicted for racketeering.
Ooh.
And 13 charges for racketeering, all involving basically ripping off businesses in Camden, New Jersey, which is one of the poorest cities in the country.
Good Lord.
And there's a whole story behind that, where, basically the Norcross Empire has been interfering with all sorts of attempts to salvage Camden and create job opportunities and turn the economy around there. And they keep mining it for their own profit.
Could you spell the last name only because I want to look it up after the show is over because I haven't heard about this and this sounds
Norcross, Norcross.
Pretty straightforward. Okay, cool.
Right. The brother who's never been elected, but has a lot of his grip on most of the politicians in New Jersey, is George. And Donald, our congressman, was installed about 10 years ago after the congressman we had at that time was caught in an embezzlement scheme or something and was forced out of office. And so then Donald was appointed to that office initially. Oh. Donald was a state assemblyman at the time. Mm-hmm. And Donald got into a position in Congress and has been in there for 10 years. And there have been attempts to, run candidates against him through the Democratic Party. And nobody can get past the primary stage. Mm-hmm. Many people can't even get into the primaries because they really scrutinize the petitions to make, and the last person who tried, her petition just didn't make it, so she couldn't get onto the ballot. We've helped in a couple of the attempts, primary attempts to run somebody counter to Donald Norcross. And while those people did garner some decent support, they didn't win. So this time around, I decided, maybe we shouldn't, we definitely shouldn't go through the Democratic Party because they've got it all locked up. They don't have anybody, they don't allow anybody to run against Donald Norcross. So I agreed to run for the Green Party because right now, that makes me, there's a Republican, but this district is 95% Democrat. Right. Yeah. So I don't, we're doing our research on the Republican too, but honestly, I'm probably the biggest challenge to Donald Norcross that he's had.
That's great.
In November. And I have a good team of people working for me. So
that's awesome. That's good. That's good. Real quick, Ariel is saying hello, waving hello.
Hi, Ariel.
Everybody, thanks you for tuning in, everybody. There's a comment section there on the right top side there. If you want to ask any questions, you want to make any comments, whatever, tell a little briefly of somebody's your stories, that'd be great. Very cool. All right. Well, very cool. Yeah. Like I said, becoming a third, whether Libertarian, Constitution Party or Green Party, whatever, it's always almost always like very purposeful. Like, I want to do this. I should do this. I went from being a Libertarian to a Green Party guy.
Okay.
And I haven't turned back since,
right.
But I was just generally speaking, because I'm not the guest here. But yeah, just became discontent with the duopoly. I was a Democrat almost all my whole life, life, and I was just like, this is ridiculous. Some of it had to do with some of the things you mentioned, and just like looking at it, and becoming a Libertarian was very cool. Libertarian Party has a lot of good things to say. My concern with them and the why I left is because they just don't seem to ever talk about the environment, like ever. And like I had radio shows and I interviewed a bunch of them. I'm like, all right, well, you're going to have to contend with climate change, whether you believe it or not. What's going to help? And everyone answered, the market's going to fix it. I'm like, that's like the lamest answer ever. So, I'm not saying the market isn't going to help because technology is going to help, of course, but that's just a scapegoat cop. That means that you have no idea what your policy would be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the reasons they never appealed to me because, the market is run by people who have agendas. The market's not going to help. Yes, exactly. So,
if doing the right environmental thing conflicts with making profits, they'll probably choose the profit-making pathway.
right,
And
right.
that in itself is the problem. So anyway, if they're given incentives and they can make profit, then they'll be happy to do it. But that should really be the second, if not tertiary, reason for doing anything in the world, money. Okay, well, very cool. And tell us about your district. District number 1 doesn't get higher than that, so that's cool. So, like, what kind of what towns that I would know of, or the viewers would know of, that are in your district, and what's going on there?
Well, in my district, we have Camden, which is one of the poorest cities in the country.
Imagine that, yeah.
We have my town, which is Collingswood, which is actually very sympathetic to Greens and very progressive in a lot of ways, not always, but then there's Cherry Hill, which is a middle class to very wealthy area. There's Haddonfield, there's Voorhees. There's some very wealthy areas in our county, and then there are some working class areas. Aside from Camden, I'd say Collingswood, it's trying to be something else, but it's really a working class town. Haddon Township, Audubon, these are all little towns most people haven't heard of, but a lot of people have heard of Cherry Hill. I know people in New York have heard of Cherry Hill. We're right across the river from Philadelphia, from Center City, Philadelphia. So, you take the Patco speed line or the car into Philadelphia, and you're there within 10 minutes.
That's neat.
So we're that close. We really are a suburb of Philadelphia. So that's our area, and some of this district is also bleeds over into 2 other counties, and one is Gloucester County, and it's largely a middle to working class area that's covered there. And in Burlington County, we have a couple of towns that are also, it's mixed. You've got some very wealthy people and you've got some very poor people in the same town. So
that's always wild to see.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's basically, historically a Democratic stronghold, and it's been gerrymandered so that, basically the Democrats will win this district no matter what.
Right.
So that's where I live.
Okay. Anything in specific going on besides your want to run against this crook, Norcross? Anything going on in your district that you that you emphasize on your campaign? Any policies or anything like that?
There are a number of things. Of course, I mean, this is not district specific, but I'm part of the campaign, part of a group called South Jersey for Gaza, and we do have weekly actions in support of the Palestinian victims of genocide, and who are being slaughtered and losing everything right now. So there's that, and so and it's gotten quite a bit of support, not necessarily in every area, but it's still 10 months later, still thriving and active and growing. There's that. There's we have issues. I mean, you want to look at things like environmental issues here. Camden has this is more a state issue. It talks to larger environmental issues nationally. Was designated as a site to put a trash to steam facility, an incinerator, in this very densely populated city.
Well, that's what they do. Yeah, they always put it in the poor areas because
right.
What are they going to do?
Yeah, it's poor. It's largely African American and Latino. It is. I used to be a teacher in Camden, and there were days where the output, the pollution from that facility was so bad that our school was closed because the air was deemed too unsafe to breathe, which might have been good for me as a teacher, even though I'm in the next town, but it wasn't good for the kids because they still lived in the same neighborhood.
Right.
And so you see higher incidence of cancers, respiratory illnesses, and so forth that are related to being exposed to the toxins being spewed by this incinerator. So, and one of the things I don't have all the details on this, but I know in general, a little bit of the history. One of the things that's been happening is the green spaces in the area have been one by one being decimated, torn down to make way for businesses, many of them largely owned by George Norcross. Yeah. So, for the sake of our environment, we have to get them out of power somehow. There are other issues too. The schools, which is a problem all over the place. The schools are suffering because they don't have enough funding to function, and so they're I know in my town they're laying off teachers, and they don't have enough teachers to begin with. They're closing. They're closing the school in my neighborhood, which is going to devastate our neighborhood. There are a lot of issues like that are local issues, but they speak to things that are happening all over the country because our politicians have been putting priority into putting billions, if not trillions of dollars into military expenses, to arming Israel and arming war all over the world, rather than using the money to help, to make life better for the people here. It's our tax money. It should be used on us. We should have a single-payer healthcare system, Medicare for all, and that's another thing that the Norcross Empire has a stronghold on in this area, because George Norcross is on the board. I think he's the CEO of the Cooper Health System, and Cooper Hospital in Camden, which is the biggest employer in Camden. And that system, what they're doing, you can tell by the way they function and the way they handle patients, is they're just cutting patient services so that they can profit more. Ooh. And so we have to get the profit motive out of healthcare, and which means we have to have a single payer healthcare system, which means something like Medicare for all, or whatever the next version of that is going to be. And so and I see people going without healthcare, even though there's state programs and so forth, because they just can't afford to get it. Mm-hmm. Other issues that affect everybody. I have seen I mean, this has been a problem all along, all my life, but I've seen it getting worse and worse, where people who were deemed middle class in the past are now the working poor.
Yep.
And they're working and working and working hours and hours and hours, days and nights, extra hours, and they still can't meet their basic needs. They can't pay their rent. They can't buy food. I see people doing things like selling their plasma so that they can buy groceries.
Their plasma TV? Oh, their plasma from their blood. Plasma TV. Plasma from the blood so they can buy groceries?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's happening. And I run it's kind of self-running, but I established a Facebook group that's kind of like a mutual aid kind of group in my area. And one of the things that I've seen happen, and this is one of the reasons I did it, was I've seen an increase in the number of people who are desperate to find food. They have no food. Wow. And so people in our community do things like they gather up food and they bring them to the people who are saying, I don't have any food left, and I'm seeing this more and more, and I'm seeing homelessness on the rise, and homelessness isn't just, people sleeping out on the street or sleeping in their cars. It's also people who are, couch surfing or, but they have no secure place to stay. And there's been an increase of that in our area, and I'm sure all over.
It's on the rise nationally for sure.
So I mean, one of the priorities has to be, kind of tying all these things together. And it would really be ideal if we got somebody like Jill Stein in office and 13, so we could really push this, is to have a real Green New Deal where we're creating jobs in areas that save the environment and create, create housing that's affordable, and jobs with livable incomes, so that we can kind of reverse what's going on and actually take care of the people here, rather than bombing people in another country.
Yeah, no, the American government, the federal government's completely useless.
Yeah, they've totally abandoned the people. And the Democrats were supposed to be the party that was for the people, and they've totally abandoned the people.
Yeah, it's a laugh.
And so we're keeping those values, those needs, those priorities.
The Green Party is an appropriate response to the duopoly. Yes, no, it's a very, very spot on, proportionate response to what's going on. Exactly. If you want to get all
And, if you look at what's been happening across the globe, and when we look at the horrible choices we have here as our supposed representatives from the psychopaths who are running for president, not including Jill, she's not, but
no, the two main parties,
down, to their lackeys in Congress and the Senate who are voting, according to their the wishes of their donors.
Yep.
And their donors are AIPAC or various weapons industries.
NRA, Boeing, there's all sorts of
Boeing people. Is actually, I believe Boeing is one of Donald Norcross's biggest contributors. Now, many of his contributors are actually businesses owned by his brother.
Okay.
And they're huge businesses. His brother's a billionaire.
Oh.
So, basically, he's doing the bidding of his brother, who is extremely wealthy, and he's doing the bidding of the weapons industry and APEC. And the health insurance industry, if you look at some of his other donors.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, those are all red flags. Huge.
Yeah. And, he's supposed to be the real strong union guy, because he does.
So is Biden.
Yeah, right. He does have a history. He was a member of IBEW. And he does have support from them. But I also have a union background. I saw that. So it's like, okay, but you're not doing anything that's really for working people.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I remember hearing Mitt Romney say, a long time ago, but it was still current enough, where he's like, he scoffed at the people who believe that the government owed them anything. I'm like, what kind of a government is it that doesn't owe their people something? Like, I don't get that. Like, what's the purpose of a government if you're not going to take care of your people? And if that's the case, then go away and we'll take care of ourselves. We'll figure it out. Thanks.
Right.
You're not going to help, move out of the way.
Right.
So we can help ourselves.
Yeah. Right. That's the basic contradiction of our system is, the government is supposedly there to help us, but if we ask for help, there's something wrong with us.
We're bums and mooches and losers and lazy and blah, 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 and pick yourself up by your own bootstraps.
Never mind that all the money that they're using comes from us.
Yeah.
The
military funding is out of control. Our military is greater than the size of our next 14 countries, biggest countries that are our allies. So anyway, and they have militaries too, by the way. It's just crazy. The American military is just nuts, man. It's just, it's first of all, the greatest killing force in the history of mankind. So there's that problem. It's definitely overbloated, and it can easily be trimmed down and still kept as pretty potent.
And now, they're voting to make draft registration automatic.
Oh.
And it would include, if the Senate has its way, women and men from ages 18 to 26, which scares the
18 to 26?
18 to 26, when you haven't even begun your life then, or you're just beginning your life, and you don't know what is out there, or you're learning how to function right now in a dysfunctional society as it is. And, they're just basically using kids as cannon fodder for corporate profits. And, so, I'm old enough to remember when there was a draft. I'm old enough to remember classmates who were drafted into, the Vietnam War and didn't come back.
Well, I will say, first of all, that you look great, because I never in a million years would have guessed that.
Yeah, well.
Seriously, I'm sorry. Wow.
But, so while some people argue, and it's a strong argument, I don't necessarily hold the same view that bringing back the draft could possibly bring back the anti-war movement. But
I think you get plenty of pushback, at least in the beginning.
Yeah, but the result is that so many young people will be sacrificed for capital.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, war is almost always about capital, folks, just so you know.
Yeah, always.
Every once in a while it's for self-defense, but very infrequently.
Very infrequently, and even when self-defense is used as the excuse, it's not necessarily self-defense.
Right. It definitely doesn't play out that way. Right. Like,
Right.
exactly. I think you
I
can see what's happening now.
Yes. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's, you said at the beginning of the show that you have like this amazing team working with you on your campaign.
Mhm.
And BL is asking, well, first of all, he says, go, Robin, go. I hope you get all the support that you need to win this. And then asking, what are some of the obstacles you're facing in your campaign right now? So why don't you talk about how great your team is and like some of the obstacles you're facing?
Okay. Well, I mean, my team is basically all volunteer.
Cool.
Very dedicated people who've, they've, some are quite young and some are older and have more experience in working on things like political campaigns and so forth. Got some very articulate people who help, who are helping me write up, um, uh, you know, talking points and articles and so forth that we can use for my campaign. And I mean, I can write, but I can't do it 24 hours a day. So it's really great to have somebody, several people to help with that. I have, and they're all doing it as volunteers. I have no money for my campaign.
It's tough.
Literally no money for the campaign.
It's really tough because Green Party candidates aren't even allowed to take from like big corporations, which I'm glad that's the case. But I'm just saying we have to be very creative in our fundraising.
Right. And so I know that's one of the things we have to write up is a fundraising letter. I don't know how much that will get, but it might get us a couple of bucks here and there. Just to defray the cost of like printing materials or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because we really, this is a really grassroots, no money campaign. But that's good in a way because I can't, I'm not going to be beholden to anyone except maybe my volunteers, because
that's the beauty of it is you don't get bought.
Right.
I remember like when Bernie Sanders was running against Hillary Clinton in the primaries and they were debating and he called her out on all the money she's getting from like Wall Street and stuff. She's like, it's not like they're giving me this money because they want something from me. He's like, don't treat us like we're stupid. Why else would they be giving you money?
Right.
And he said something almost close like that. I remember he said something about like, don't you think we're stupid? So yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, it wouldn't be nice to have money to send out mailings or things like that. Yeah. Like Donald Norcross sends them out all the time. They're big, glossy, expensive mailings, and it goes to the entire congressional district. And he also has ways of campaigning for himself without it being a campaign, so it will be a service through his office or some sort of seminar or a series of workshops or whatever that are being sponsored by him. And that's a big publicity thing for him.
Oh, sure.
And I don't have that. So
are there any local radio stations, any like community colleges that have radio stations or anything like that? I was just thinking, I do radio shows and I've when I was saying that I interviewed a bunch of libertarians back in the day and some Greens since then. Like it was very good for their campaigns. I don't know that I swayed anybody or anything like that. My shows aren't that big, but it might be, that's definitely, that's media. That's helpful.
Mm-hmm. That's something I guess we do have to explore. It's summer right now. Most,
right. Colleges aren't doing stuff.
They're doing summer classes, but
I don't know if college is like a community or otherwise would have their radio stations go on through this. I don't know. I've never worked for a college.
I really don't. When I was teaching at them, I knew the people who would run those things. But now I don't know anybody. It's been a while since I haven't taught.
Third parties is a very rebellious proposition, and so I think like college kids would get into it. Yeah, and farmers markets and stuff like that. Anything like, any environment. I know New Jersey is kind of like not very environmentally friendly. But there's got to be some sort of like green organizations out there that would like support you and stuff.
Oh, there are. And I'm sort of getting right now. I haven't gotten any endorsements yet. That'll come at some point, but there are environmental organizations here that are working hard to do things like, get rid of the Covanta trash to steam facility, which they've been trying to do since before my twins were born. And that was 31 years ago. So, there are organizations trying to save the New Jersey pinelands, which just had a terrible fire and devastated so much of it because of fireworks.
Really?
Yeah. We've had such a drought and everything's so dry.
Yeah.
Fireworks just set fire. It's horrible. I do have contacts in a number of the environmental organizations, and so I'm sure we can get some sort of help from them. We do have a farmers market in Collingswood. They won't let me campaign there.
They will not?
They will not. They'll let us have. In the past, they've let us have a Green Party table or tent.
Oh, okay. So you have a booth, but you can't like walk around and pass out stuff.
Right. But we can't do things like petition at a table, and that's that makes
you can't petition. So you could set up the tent, but you can't petition there.
Right. So what we would do is we'd have the tent with some sparse Green Party literature, because there was no money to produce Green Party literature.
Just write it down on a Post-it note and hand it out.
We had a cardboard display with cutouts and handwritten in magic marker and things like that.
Whatever it takes. Hey, you gotta do it.
But our candidates were allowed to petition with clipboards which is, how we've been doing it. It's hard for me though, because I'm physically disabled. So I can do it on a limited basis, but I can't do it for long periods of time. And so it would be so much easier for me to be able to do it if I was sitting at a table,
Sure.
But what we've done,
that's kind of silly line to draw there. I don't know why they would care about that. Ariel, are you hearing all this? Ariel's like super green person and like goes all over the country. What's that? I'm sorry.
Some of it has to do with the guy who's running it too.
No, I figured probably had something to do with that. Ariel's like super Green Party superhero man.
Right.
He goes like all over the country and like gets a petition signed for everybody. So hopefully he's still listening. I'm not trying to volunteer you, dude, but.
Yeah, hopefully we can get some people this weekend and next weekend next weekend's quite busy for us, isn't it? This weekend and possibly next weekend to petition, because in my town, despite not being able to have a table or a tent with petitions in it, at it, people are actually quite receptive, and we could probably get a lot of signatures for Jill there at the farmers market in my town, for instance.
The deadline for her petitions hasn't come yet?
No.
Okay, because in Illinois it's come and gone, and we weren't able to get her there.
Oh, okay.
It was too bad, yeah.
Oh my gosh. We don't have a very high number. I think we're shooting for a minimum of 1,300.
For Jill Stein or for you?
For Jill Stein. Oh, I'm
That's
done.
It?
I'm done. I'm on the
You're
ballot.
golden.
I'm golden. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. You only need 1,300 because we needed 25,000.
No.
And then, of course, we needed probably twice that many because they take so many off afterwards.
Right. Well, we're trying for twice as many as we need, and but in New Jersey it's quite low, so it is easier to get for third parties to get onto the ballot here. We just have to be able to get out there and do it, and get the petition signed. But my petitions for myself, they were signed very quickly, several weeks before I needed to. I had more than twice what I needed to get on the ballot. So, it was
exciting. So, like, can you debate this dude and stuff going in, or what's going on there?
Yeah, that's one of our next tasks, is to challenge him to a debate. We'll see what happens. I know that the guy who ran against him in the primary 2 years ago did challenge him to a debate, and his challenges were ignored. So
because he's a coward, he probably can't
that's probably
his way through an open door.
That's where we suspect is that he.
Why would you not? The debates are like one of the formidable underpinnings of American politics.
Right.
People want to see you on stage answering questions against your opponent. That's important to us.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay.
And I do believe that there was a time where. No, I don't want to say that because I'm not quite sure. There was an attempt to get in on some sort of debate with him several years ago, and the people challenging him to the debate could not get in. But I'm willing to bet he's afraid of me.
I would imagine so. And rightly so.
We'll see what happens. I am going to challenge him to a debate. We'll see what happens.
Okay, I would love to hear more about this. You have my email. Please keep me updated.
I will.
I want to hear about this because, especially maybe have you on after the debate or talk about how it went, that kind of thing. If it's filmed, I can just put it on our website or
right. And then we can, if he doesn't agree to it, we can make that part of the campaign, is that Donald Norcross is too afraid to deal with an grandma from Collingswood.
Absolutely. Put that in there. Norfolk, coward. That'll be the title.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So you talked about some of the bigger international stuff. You talked about some of the local stuff. You talked about how did we go over how great your team is? For the most part, at least.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't want to name names because
that's fine.
People have jobs and things like that. But my team is great. They're sharp. I have some really top-notch people in there. Community activists that have obviously a long track record of being consistent in their actions and views.
Oh, that's refreshing.
Yeah.
Consistency. Wow.
Yeah.
I have a philosophy degree. I studied logic. Consistency is my favorite thing in the world. Mm-hmm. And I see it very infrequently.
Yes. So these people are gold. They're wonderful people. We'll see how that works out. We're just finally getting started because we've had all sorts of things. I just joined this in March, and had problems with even establishing a bank account for this thing, and I have no money anyway, so I don't know why. But so we're working with a hand tied behind our backs, but the other hand has such great fingers on it, with all these people working.
That's fabulous.
Committee, that it's great.
Yeah, and as long as if you, not I want to say as long as, but like as you're having this wonderful experience, this is something you're going to look back on later in life. Whether win, lose, or tie,
right.
You're going to look back and think about like what a great time it was and how much you learned and how many people you met. It's a very fruitful experience. Very cool, even though it can be very short. Have you met Jill Stein?
I met Jill Stein in 2016. I do have a photo, a few photographs of me with her. I hate the photographs of me, but I use one of them anyway because it's me with her. And but I think it was 30 pounds heavier than I am now, and I'm not so,
You look great. Like seriously, like that whole Vietnam thing that blows me away. I'm still trying to process that.
But I had, in my defense, I had 2 broken feet at the time, so I wasn't able to get around.
That's intense stuff there, yeah.
But yeah, I've met her. I don't know her well. I did have her, as friends on Facebook, basically, and then she got kicked off her account there. So now she only, that was, when was that? At some point, she got kicked off her account on Facebook. They've been doing that to a lot of people.
Oh, they do it to a lot of people for sure.
Yeah. They did that. I was friends with Laurel Krause, who's the sister of one of the kids killed at Kent State, and really? She had her account and then several pages dedicated to Kent State. She got kicked out of her account and she can't get back in. I'm seeing that happen to a lot of people, and so it's not surprising that they did that. I think it was last year they did it to Jill. So I haven't really, even had a chance to interact with her that way. So, but I'll hopefully meet her on the 20th.
Is she going to New Jersey?
To New Jersey on the 20th.
Right on. July this month?
July 20th. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And she's doing like a little rally there, or?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So. When's the deadline for her petitioning?
I believe for the state it's the 29th. I think our goal is the 26th of the month.
The 26th. So you can just make sure everything's together and ready to go.
Right.
Yeah. That's cool. That's very cool. Yeah, no, that's great. 1,300 compared to 25,000. That's
well. I believe we might need more than that. I'm not quite sure. The number has changed over the years. I remember there was a time when to get a presidential candidate on the ballot, you only needed 600 signatures. But I think it's gone up. So I am not quite sure. Okay. I only knew the number of signatures I needed for my own petitions. But I know our goal is to have each of the Green 13 at least come up with 100.
For you specifically.
And then
Oh, for Jill?
For Jill. No. Okay. I'm done. I don't need any.
You're done.
So, but for Jill, definitely we need to get her on. This way also we get, we can assure we have our own line on the ballot, because what they do with third-party candidates is they often mix us in, the potluck miscellaneous of candidates over in the corner, and not in any particular order. And we are trying to avoid that by having like Jill and then Christina Khalil, and then each congressional candidate on the ballot in our districts, so that there were 3 candidates on the ballot and they have to create a line for us. And so, if for no other reason, we have to get Jill on there so we can have that line on the ballot.
Right.
We definitely want her for president, but yes. For practical reasons, we need to get her on the ballot. So
yes, I understand. Very interesting. Do you know the population in New Jersey off the top of your head, or about?
I
couldn't tell you Illinois, so don't feel bad if you don't.
Last I heard was something like 8.5 million people.
Okay.
And
it's not very big.
Not a big state. It's the most densely populated.
That's why I was asking, because every single candidate said that it's the most densely populated state. I've never asked anybody like how many people are actually in there.
Yeah. And most of that population is concentrated in North Jersey. I'm in South Jersey, where it's getting crowded, but there's a little more space between people. And we're not, they kind of ignore us a lot of the times when they have elections, my computer is starting to flicker here. Yes. So I lost my.
They mostly ignore you.
They ignore us. Yeah. I mean, in 2016, when we were still supporting Bernie, our primary was on the same day as the California primary, which is like one of the last primaries in the country. The night before, that's when Hillary Clinton declared that she was the winner in California. So she's won the nomination. And we didn't even get a chance to vote yet.
Wow.
It's
well,
like,
yeah,
it didn't even count. We didn't get a chance to vote at all yet. And she's already declaring herself the winner. So
that didn't work out very well for her.
Yeah. Well, yeah. New Jersey, even though we actually there are a lot of really prominent people from New Jersey who live in New Jersey and in all the parties,
Bruce Springsteen, Bon Jovi.
Yeah, they're all in Monmouth
Frank
County.
Sinatra.
Yeah.
Baseball.
Jersey City. Who?
Baseball.
Baseball.
Hoboken, New Jersey, the Elysian Fields, baseball. New Jersey is a very important part of our history.
Yes, yeah. We're the bedroom to New York and Philadelphia, so.
That's interesting.
And we also have more millionaires per capita, and probably a couple of billionaires in here too, because it's a very, there are very wealthy people who live here too. Also, some of the poorest people in the country. Yeah. So.
Wow. Okay. Well, we're just about at the end here. Is there anything you'd like to say to kind of wrap it all up, sum it all up?
You can look me up, Robin Brownfield, Robin Brownfield for Congress.com, or is it Robin Brownfield?
Hold on, I'm typing it in. Oh, did I lose her? Let's give her a moment and see if she comes back. This might be it, folks. Any last questions, comments, or concerns you'd like to post there? That'd be cool. See if we can get to them. All right, I think that might be it. All right, well, everybody, thanks for tuning into the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rich. So next time, be good, be green.